Test, test.
Yeah, I hear something now. I think that was it,
Yeah? I don't know, it looks weird to me. I'm not convinced this. I think this is the actual mic you're hearing, though. It's like literally me talking through the mic. Computer audio, of course. That's the issue. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I got it. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about it. I joined the second session without computer audio. So you guys should be hearing it now on Twitch. So anyways, you guys listening in on the live stream missed my beautiful introduction. It was incredible. I have 8 witnesses here that can attest to the brilliance of my opening intro. But you don't need to hear it again. So yeah, we're just gonna get straight to the name picking or whatever. So I'm gonna put everyone's name.
But we do hear it again.
Say what?
Good now. Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Yep,
Never
yep,
mind.
yep. Yeah, you know what? That's what happens when you skip a month, you know? It's like the rust sets in real quick. And it's like, what? How was that done again? Alrighty. So yeah, thanks for many of you who sent your tracks in ahead of time, by the way. That's sort of my plan going in the future. That way, when we go to play back everyone's track, it'll be a lot smoother. And I'll have the screens all set up. But you know, we're pretty flexible, so it's not totally big deal. Okay, so we got Robert. Just gonna read the names out as I type them here. As a matter of fact, I'll share my screen since it's not. Okay. You guys can see me type. I guess there's 2 Roberts. Speaking of which, Tiny Bites, did you have a track you wanted to share? Yeah, okay. Spell my own name. Jeff, you sent in a track, right? Yes, you did. And also, Gilles, I'm not sure. I didn't see.
Yeah,
anything.
I don't have one this
No?
month.
Okay. I'll put Tiny Bites anyway. If his name comes up, we can always skip. Oh, and Peter, sorry. New guest.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm literally just arranging right now. I'm just throwing it together. I was like, the hell with it. I'm gonna throw it in. So yeah.
All right, man. All right. You're in the list. All right. So any names missing? Anyone wanna stop me before I hit go? All right.
So Lenny, is Robert B me, which is Richard?
Yes.
No whammies, no whammies.
Here I am saying there's 2 Roberts even. Oh my God. that's
When you
terrible.
call Robert B, then I'll know that it's my turn.
Okay, I mean, I'll change it.
Yeah.
But is it too early, Tiny Bites? You want me to roll again here, or?
I'm just bouncing right now. Sorry.
So I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah, pass.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
It's fine.
Vosto. All righty. So Vosto, why don't you
man.
tell us about your latest album that I think was literally released yesterday officially?
Yes, it's my new album. It's called Station 23, and it's a journey through a post-apocalyptic environment of a fictional universe where it's not the usual thing. It's not the countries battling each other, but instead it's a revolution of the people against a globalized form of of tyranny. And you can read that all in the description with its amazing details. And Station 23, which used to be a radio, it's now has an underground base made for the revolutionaries, or they plan their stuff. And there's 15 tracks in this album. And it's gonna take you through different sections. So it starts from the Cold War, where it's just like rumors of war, and then the war begins, and then things happen. Eventually, it reaches the final push, and then the war ends. So there's all that. There's a big lore for who has the patience to read the album description on Bandcamp. That's where you can find the album on Bandcamp and Spotify. Station 23.
And you should definitely throw that in the chat here, Vostel, the links. And
yeah, I should, but I
you
don't.
have it.
I can send them to you, and you can send them on the chat room. Okay.
Okay, but like on Zoom, if you look, there is a chat thing. That's fine. Either way. Yeah, if on the bottom there, there's like a little chat thing. It'll open it up, and then if you pop it in, I'm sharing the chat, so it'll.
Okay, so that's
yeah.
that's the Bandcamp album right there.
Cool.
And there's also a Spotify one for those who use Spotify. And that's the styles of the music are varied. So it's all about the scene. Like when I create a song, I imagine a scene in my head, and so the style is created by the scene itself. So it's not like a dubstep album or a drum and bass album. It's whatever feelings were emanating from that track, because the tracks write themselves. So that's about it. Play whichever track you want from the album, Spy.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with the Hackers. What was that name of that track?
Hacker's Call.
Hacker's Call. Yeah. So I'll start off with that one. And yeah, we'll come back. So again, go to the Twitch or YouTube, and yeah, just make sure you're muted on Zoom as well. I, as the Zoom administrator, can do that, but it kind of makes things easier for everyone if you just keep an eye on it yourself, because I sometimes may miss it. So without any further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and we'll check out Vostel's tune.
All right, that was the track. Hope you guys liked it.
Yes, I love that track.
It was brilliant. Oh man.
See what I was saying, that it doesn't respect any styles.
That's not at all, but I also appreciate that gated snare, the reverb on it really cuts through, even though you have all those kind of frequencies going on at once. You have a unique feel. I don't know. I heard hints of KMFDM a bit in some of the lead synths and whatnot, but yeah, can't place it. Genreless.
I
Alright.
really love the drumming that goes, and the sounds are so huge. It makes me really jealous, you know. It's something that I'm trying to get a hold of, but you've really got a rich, thick, and just pounding sounds. I love it.
Yeah, man, I make it all on that sewing machine there and on the back.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly found it was a very unique kick drum there. I wonder how you got the sound of that.
It's probably a mix of I mean, the album has 15 tracks, so sometimes it's hard to remember what each project looked like. But usually, you know, I try to pick kicks that don't have big tails. Like obviously, it just goes like, and that's it, so that you can use them as double kicks and stuff like that. So it's probably like a vintage rock kick or something like that, and then maybe a second layer with a bit of sub bass to it, like from a modern kick, and just layer those two together, and that's it. Not something more complicated than that when it comes to the kick drum. And then you can just go ta-ta-tum, and it's fine, you know. And if there is any side chaining, it's very subtle, because like a kick drum that goes as much as this one, it would really destroy. Like it would create a crazy side chain that would not be useful at all. So you have to place the sounds more and less side chaining for a track like this.
The one thing I noticed, I mean, forgive me, but I mean, it seemed like it was full of polyrhythms, and there was a lot of things that were not a straightforward beat like you would expect. If I were to say, I think it was around the 19-minute mark or 19 and a half. It was at about 21-minute mark. It seemed that things really straightened out, and there was a straight up groove. But around the 19, it felt like if there was something that was just kind of piercing through that I could hold on to. I mean, I could follow the groove, but it was a challenge. And I think if there was something very subtle there just to lead you in, the general masses might be able to relate to that a little better. I don't know if anyone else noticed that.
Well, that's the track. That's the weird one from the album. So I made it like that on purpose to resemble like a broken hard drive, you know, because it's a track about hackers and stuff. So I wanted to get that, like the randomness of the numbers and of the like the whole hacking thing, like, you know, like a computer is talking to you, like, you know, going like, you know, like it's not gonna be. But yeah, I hear you. But it's on purpose though in this case.
Absolutely. It felt like a language that I didn't understand, but very quickly I became to understand it, and I really enjoyed it. I just, maybe me, I want a more gentle lead into it. But I thought it was amazing, as everyone else did, I think.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I
man.
mean, I would have thought, is it wrong to call it synthwave? I mean, is that too crazy? Dark
Well, it
wave?
still uses you can call it dark synth, not synthwave. So dark synth, like people like Perturbator and stuff like that.
Right. Okay, because I
Oh.
consider Perturbator synthwave.
Well,
But okay,
like
dark
you can tell that it's vintage kind of
As a matter of
synths that
fact,
I
you
use. Like,
almost, am I wrong to say the bass sound almost sounds kind of like a Perturbator bass? Like it's, I mean,
yeah, you've got
which
those
is
80s
compliment.
sounding
because that's
bass
like,
synths that go like, bow,
right.
you know. And
Yeah, it has like that.
and then the synths, the lead synths are also like A to Z, the lead sounds like bam bam bam, dun dun dun. You know, like that's also an 80s kind of sound, but layered in a way that is a modern hacker feel. You know, that's what I was going for.
Absolutely. I hear a lot of, as someone mentioned, KMFDM, but certainly an industrial feel, 9 Inch Nails, although not quite like that. But it's very gritty. I liked it a lot.
If you want similar dark synth stuff, you can also listen to Mega Drive, for example. Mega Drive is also like a little bit of a aggressive synth guy in the synth genre, but also melodic at the same time, because that's what I like. Like, I want to be in the middle. I don't want to be just purely aggressive. I like melodies in my metal, let's say. You know?
Yeah, it was a great track, Vosto. Loved it. And that when you were making the comment about the hacking bit, the kick drums, I should send you a sample of one of the old 300 baud tape machines. That crunch crunch crunch.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally. But yeah, great track, man. And again, always love the clarity. One of one of these days, I gotta send you something.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, awesome stuff.
Got my cat meowing at me here. What's up, buddy? Anyways, that was a great track, Boston. We may be hearing another track later as we go through the names. We may cycle through a second time, so definitely get a chance to hear more.
Yeah,
But you should definitely
I'm here.
check out the Bandcamp, check out the Spotify. It's 15 tracks, you said. So I mean, and they're all good.
Yes,
That's
sir.
incredible. It's incredible to have that many good tracks on an album. I'll just be honest. It's
Those are the best tracks out of all the projects that I made this year. So, I mean, not this year, but also a little bit of the last year, like before winter, you know? So tracks pile up, and then you decide, I'm going to put this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And it turned out to be really cool because I found 15 songs worthy of an album. So I was happy about that too.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Thanks, guys.
Ready. Just going to figure out what screen to share. Sorry about that. Ready. So I will re-add your name though, don't worry. And I'm gonna change Richard's. I'm sorry about that.
We roll every time. This is exciting.
Yeah, it's worked for us for all these years, so we're
I like it.
yeah. Feels like a little bit of a game show a little bit. But anyway, Paul, take it away, man.
Shit, I'm up already. All right. Yeah, so I'm going to play you something that's nowhere near finished, and basically just me kind of playing with the arrangement and seeing how I'm going to work it out. And I said I wasn't going to, but I got my tax return and I bought a syntax, so I now have the whole holy trinity of Electron devices. This song features the syntact with a splash of digitone and digitact and nothing else, because I want to prepare for a live show or be able to do a live show over time of just these three devices because they're just fun to play live. And it's really been my focus for the last little while is just getting better at these three things. I am also attempting to make a track at Lenny's tempo, which is 87 BPM, but double scale. So this is, I would say, drum and bass meets IDM meets, I don't know, just some weirdness. Definitely love to hear your feedback. Again, not finished, barely mixed, but I didn't use ozone this time, so it should be loud enough.
And the date that you're going to be at the next TEMO, I think it's called.
Right.
TOMO?
So Toronto Electronic Music Open Mic. It's every second Monday at Handlebar in Kensington Market, and so it'll be Monday, May 13th.
All right,
And,
man. I'm gonna
I
mark
got
it on
an
my
early
calendar.
slot because we're all kind of old, and I want to make sure a few of you can come. But yeah, 8:45.
Wow, thanks, man.
Just
Could you
myself
post that in
included.
the chat there, Paul?
I specifically asked for an early slot because that's a working night, man. But anyways, yeah, I will. I'll share the Facebook
Yeah,
group. It's
a
got
little
some great
later.
information on it.
Alrighty, well, let's give this a whirl.
And yeah, it's video this time.
Cool, cool.
I particularly liked when you actually started playing the melody.
Yeah. That's that was not planned. It was more I had that open.
I liked it even before that, man. The breaks are really cool.
Nice.
Your mic is really low at my end, Paul.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
find that too.
It's because I'm using a Shure SM58 and they're not made for this. But
Much better
yes.
when you get there.
Yeah, man. Definitely. I ended up loading a bunch of this classic drum and bass breaks and samples into my Digitact almost a year ago, and I did that other drum and bass song. Like I played it almost a year ago for you guys, but I just used some of the same samples, but flipped the script a bit and then added the Syntact and had a really fun. That's actually the first beat I made on the Syntact. I only got it a couple weeks ago, so it's been I don't know. I love Electron stuff. I want more people to join the group and join the club, but yeah.
Well, you
So-
got me interested. I'll be honest with you. So you did that beat with the Syntact then, like the main drum.
Yeah, like not the like the sample breaks, but the main
okay.
drums, most of the melodic synths, and what the Syntact gives you, it gives you 8 digital tracks and 4 analog tracks, all monophonic, and they can be drums or melodic, and yeah, it's if you're gonna get a first box like for Electron, it might be the one I recommend because you can make the most with it.
The Syntact? You're saying?
Yeah, but then also they released Digitac 2 yesterday, so yeah, exactly. 16 tracks and stereo, but I don't know. I think the mono samples in the Digitac give it its sound in a way, so I'll be interested to hear how the new one sounds. But yeah, stay tuned. I'm gonna try to do it live and for twice the amount of time and with more stuff in about 3 weeks. So.
It's
Yeah.
just, I love the music, Paul, and
Yeah.
just to watch you doing it is like so amazing. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
No worries.
And you're pushing buttons and turning knobs, and you're actually doing something.
I thought the thing had a really great vibe. I mean, up until about 30 seconds ago, I was still humming it to myself, feeling that groove. I mean,
Appreciate that, man.
yeah, it felt fantastic, and it seeing you play it just like everyone else says is amazing because it's beyond me. I'm hunting and pecking MIDI notes at this point. So
Well, I know for me, I had a hard time making good drums until I switched the hardware, and like that's just, but that's myself. Like then there's like Fausto does amazing stuff. I think you're primarily in the box, right? But
I'm in the box, but like
yeah,
I do use. I compose
Play it.
everything live.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then I tweak it.
Nice.
Like I can't imagine. Like it's hard to play those type of things that I did earlier. That it was in my song. Like it's hard to play it live correctly. So there's a lot of adjusting to be done in the box.
No, well, same here. Like, as in the thing with Electron devices is you start with something basic, and just every step you can tweak and make it unique, and then you end up making a pretty complex sounding beat. Yeah, and without trying too hard. But well, it took me 2 years to learn how to use them. But yeah, once you get there, they're fun.
I would like to get more analog equipment, actually, just for inspiration purposes. Or like to record a layer, and then I can tweak that in the box too. But it still go through the box. But I would like to have some stuff like that. But look, I'm in a economical situation where I can't afford to buy all those big guns, So I try to do everything I can with the box to reach that sound that I imagine, And I'm satisfied with what I'm able to do,
Awesome.
oh, you're muted.
Talking on mute. I was gonna say, like, even though hardware is definitely, it's not free, but it really has come down in price. You know what I mean? Like, considering if you look back decades ago, like the cost, and I mean with the purchasing power, right? Like if you look at the purchasing power you would have had maybe in 1988 and you wanted to buy hardware versus what you have, let's say today, I mean, you could buy like probably 10 times as amount. And there's a lot of The Behringer, like the knockoffs of the big famous synths or whatever. I know a lot of people are purists, but anyway, just to throw it out there. There's
Yeah, but I would like those classic models, like a real Prophet 5, for example, or the same Oberheim that Vangelis used on Blade Runner, or stuff like that. Like that's more expensive stuff. But I would like cheaper stuff too, like this Polyvox synthesizer that was used for the creation of the sound in Doom Eternal by Mick Gordon. He found this old Soviet synth called Polyvox. It's not bad. It has grit to it and a certain personality. It's a simple synthesizer, but it has its own personality. So I could pick that up because it's not as expensive as a Prophet 5. So I could start with that. You'll see me next year here or later this year with the Soviet old synthesizer.
that'd be cool, man. But yeah, Paul. So yeah, I'm gonna make an effort. I'm gonna mark that date down on my calendar, man, and hopefully catch it
appreciate it.
live.
I'll post it to the Discord too.
Yeah,
when it
yeah,
gets
for sure.
closer. Yeah.
Yes, not only good breaks in your song, but also melody. I agree with everything this guy said, just in case you didn't know what I think.
Just appreciate that.
I'm a big fan of old school breaks, Like I like Fanu a lot. Fanu is my favorite old school drum and bass guy.
He's a very good for mastering. That's how I first knew about Fanu. He is a technical, like one of the ones that I know anyway, and it's very good.
How do you spell that artist name? I'm interested.
FANU.
F-A-N-U.
I'll put it in the chat.
And he does some very interesting beats too. Like he doesn't do like poof ta ta boom pa pa. No, he does like boom boom da 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 boom da boom bam boom boom bam. Like he's a bit jazzy with the beats. It's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I've always been more of a fan of his production, to be straight up honest, like his mastering. But he's definitely skillful. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and spin the wheel. But thanks again, Paul. It's always a pleasure to. Well, I like listening to everyone's stuff, but I like to see, like as the hardware, the visual, seeing you do it. It's always like a nice, I don't know, it's a different experience, I guess. I lost my screen here. The hell? Oh, okay. Alrighty. Like I say, we may, if you have another track up your sleeve, we might be going around the wheel again later, Paul. So just keep that in mind. Like I say, we may have another track up your sleeve. All right, Tiny Bites, you're up. I did see your email. And I think this was fresh. I think you composed this like while we were starting, so this is like about as fresh as it gets. Well, if it was,
Well,
could be live, I suppose. That's the only other way to be more fresh, I guess.
yeah, it technically was. I don't like you guys can hear me okay?
Yep, can hear you.
Yeah, so there was no arrangement. Essentially what this is everything. I had an idea for a track, which was based on the thought of just the frustration of an individual. My image was a guy standing in front of or an individual standing in front of a fractured mirror, just not believing in themselves and whatnot. That's the idea. I threw in some rough samples that I screamed into the microphone in the background while you guys were talking, and so essentially everything's hardware. The drums are old cheesy MC 505 on loop, and so what I was doing was similar to Paul. It was live, had all the synths on, and I was recording and playing different tracks and then grabbing them as samples from the synths. And so, yeah, this is about a third of the samples, just arranged very roughly. There's no mixing, no nothing, no effects. Any effect that you hear is probably from the synth. But that's it. I'm hoping next it'll be finished for the next meetup. So this is just kind of a idea.
All right, let's give it a whirl.
Bro, I got some Visage vibe from this actually.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, like the Fade to Grey Visage, but also, so that's an 80s song for those who don't know, from like British new wave. But then you brought that 90s kind of stance, which was all really cool, and then you brought the growls, which was unexpected for this type of music that was relaxing to me until that point. But you know, it somehow worked, and in the end, it made sense because the instruments got a little bit more gritty as well. It seemed pretty cool. The only thing I've changed is the cymbals. I think that they're a bit too default sounding, but
That's
you
not.
know, that's it.
That's my metronome. I literally, I put together a quick beat on a Groovebox for inspiration. I was trying to step back in time a bit, so each synth that came out was a journey between modular and the old 80, the analog clean digital, like the JP 8000, that kind of stuff. So that what you're hearing there is not what the song that's what the song will sound like. It's just going to be grungier, darker. The synths are going to be completely washed, like crushed. So that's the clean idea version. This isn't the song. This is more or less just, grabbing a pencil and paper, scratching it down, and then I just do the arrangement. That's not even the arrangement. That was just so you guys could hear the idea of what you'll hear when I'm finished. I think. I don't know. I was trying to have something that.
And I like the character of your voice. It's very charactery.
Thank you. Yeah, that's Alicia. Alicia character.
The processing you put on your voice, Tiny Bites, was really good. Just adds to the angst, and it really matches that image of the shattered mirror someone looking into. I thought it was really well done.
Thanks.
There's a song by Dinosaur Jr., I want to say. And it's like, why don't you like me? And he's just yelling it, like similar to how your lyrics were, right? I don't know if you ever heard it. I'll find it for you and send it to you. But very good song, Tiny. I'm glad to see you hit the 3-minute mark. I think, like, dude, I'm so happy to see like a track that's almost complete. Is what I'm trying to say. Because for the longest time, you had like 90-second clips here and there, right?
Yeah, that's one of the problems I'm going to have with this track is that was about a third of the loops and stuff that I had created from the synths, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. The song itself will probably end up being 5 minutes, but there's supposed to be a breakdown in there. The idea is there's supposed to be a bit of a breakdown. I found a really cool with the TB303. I managed to put a really cool effect together that just sounds like if you were to picture in a film where somebody OD'd and the room starts spinning and traveling around, but there's just, like more like a psychotic episode, a mental breakdown. Anyways, yeah, but that's the cheesy beginning of it. That's why it was called Cheesy Toms, because you gotta love those those 90s or 1990s,
Well, the synth reminded me of Death Wish. It's got like those hard, like synths and whatnot. The soundtrack.
Yeah, the Jupiter 8. Yeah,
there you go.
That's
I don't know why I got 80s this kind of sounds from a lot of the clubs sounded like that, of course, but without the bass. The bass is quite is quite unique, but a lot of the other synths sounded very much like the 80s to me.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned Visage Fade to Grey. You guys should check out the songs for those who don't know.
Yeah, there could have been some hidden. I actually used to listen to Visage, so there might have been some subconscious, influence. I notice that from time to time.
I know you have a really nice singing voice. You should do more.
Thanks. I'm trying, but honestly,
It's full. It's very rich. Very nice. Of course, a lot of that is the mic too, right? But it came through very nicely. So I encourage you to keep going.
Yeah, 100% what he said.
Yeah, I got to agree with Richard. It was a really pleasant surprise to hear the vocals come in, and they're very gritty, but I mean they're fantastic. And if you did it, I mean, good for you, man.
Nice.
And even the variety of them. I mean, back to Visage, I think the singer was Midge Ure. There was some David Bowie, perhaps. The range was great. Yeah, so encourage it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and even a bit of metal with the growls in the beginning.
Yeah, that's the song will be saturated, like a lot of the synths will be saturated out, darkened. It's actually very similar, Vasto, to the mix of this will actually have a very similar what you were doing with your track. I have the other track that I'm working on now. Like there's about 5 copies of this at the moment. I keep going and then I like, nope, don't like it. And then I
Well, to have a mix like mine, you need to pass it through an old 60s sewing machine to get the character of the sound right.
Well, what I'll do is when I'm finished I'll send it so you can run it through and
all right, yeah, good idea.
Make sure you use a zipper foot on it, though. I need that little extra.
$50 per track to go through my 60 song machine.
All right. Anyways, thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was great. I'm glad that because you weren't even sure if you wanted to share anything, so I'm glad you made the
There was
decision to do so.
nothing. Put it this way: in the piano roll, there was 0 when you started. So I just
Man, there you go, man. So this is maybe the trick you need, man, to finish a track. You need to like join the meetup and like write them during the meetup, you know?
stressed me out. Yeah. Okay. Was doing as quick as I can, fast, and then bounce it and go, oh shoot, I forgot to turn that off, turn that on. Yeah, no. That's anyways.
Yeah.
Excellent, man.
All I've
Thank
got in
you.
my head right now is, the Electron page, and I'm staring at what my wife would just look at me and go, no.
More hardware?
Yeah.
Never. You don't really have, well, actually, you have a lot of nice stuff, actually. Come to think of it.
No, she would turn around and say, well, when you produce something with what you have, that, and I
Right.
see $1, and I'm gonna be like, okay, honey, here's $10. Buy my track. I'll send everybody money and say, okay, buy my track.
I'll buy your track, man, if it means, that much.
And
to
let's
you.
go.
Yeah.
$1 extra, just
Yeah.
so it's worth the time to do an extra click.
No, that way I can, say, see, honey, see, look. I'm actually making something of myself. Can I buy it now?
Well, I did go ahead and
Yeah.
spin the wheel, actually, in all fairness. So, but I don't want to totally over, but we got to be sensitive with time. Although, come to think of it, we have actually an abundance of that. But anyways, Jeff, your name came up, so tell us about your tune.
Yeah, it's a short song. I don't know quite what I think of it. It's just something that was I had worked on a little bit. Has a couple of vocal samples, and I don't know. It's kind of an odd beat. I'm not really sure. Maybe you could give me some suggestions on it. I was trying to, thicken up, widen the sounds a bit, but I don't know. I'd like to hear it to be, the sounds a bit fuller. There's not a lot of chords in it, so it's. I think it's largely percussive and like melodies. So, but yeah, just go ahead and give it a show. Thanks, Lenny.
Yep, we'll give it a spin. Let's check it out.
once again, you tend to do a lot of that type of music. A lot of that type of music.
You could see this in a 90s video game. See this in a 90s video game.
Uh-huh.
See this in a 90s video game.
Uh-huh.
See this in a 90s video game.
You might have your Twitch or whatever going. You might have your Twitch.
Someone didn't mute the Twitch.
It's Jeff.
There we go. Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Hey, at least everyone heard that it's like a 90s video game.
Yeah, I did hear that a few times. I got that back. Yeah.
I thought that was really great. It reminded me a lot of Portishead, and it seemed like if you had a vocal or if you had a really charismatic vocalist there, I mean, there could be a lot going on, or even a hip hop beat. Like you could do both. But it left a lot open. I felt like it was a great supporting, but it left space for somebody to step in and, in my opinion, take the stage or take the center stage.
Thank you.
Blow it down, little glory box. Yep. Fantastic track.
Your acoustic
Mystery.
bass
I
really
could feel
cut
the
through as
mystery.
well. Yeah.
The mystery, but also going like da 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 da. Like that's the mystery. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, unique sounds, and you're right, Vosto. I mean, you're right. That mystery sound, that kind of intriguing. I want to listen to more. Something's going on. It's sneaky. But the sound selection was very interesting. I liked it a lot, and yeah, good for you. Where did you get it?
It was an interesting switch between the mystery, like Vosto and Peter said, and then you have this that's totally not mysterious. So the two, one against the other, was very interesting, very creative.
Well, thank you, Joe.
And you know, it's funny too. I mean, you mentioned that it's not you had no chords in there, but I mean, it certainly didn't come across. You had pads, you had filling instruments, which may or may not have been a chord, may have been a single instrument, but it felt very rich and full. It didn't feel like it was missing that element, and the percussion was very melodic. It had a lot of tones to it. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, had you not said that, I wouldn't have even thought to myself, "Oh, this is lacking chords." Yeah, we're having a meeting, pal. Hang on.
Well, I think you know, you're always trying to improve and trying to get more. So that's part of you know, everything, and looking forward to the feedback and you know, yeah, where can I go with this? Yeah, so thank you. Hello.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean the unique sounds really catch my ear, and they're very playful, and they're a lot of fun, and I search for those sort of things, and I'm happy with what I end up with. But listening to, in fact, what all of you had, Jeff, you as well, is that it really felt unique and something that I'm looking for.
Right. Well, awesome stuff, Jeff. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, everybody.
And yeah, I was just gonna say, it's been interesting hearing all your different tunes over the years. You know, you really kind of have hit I don't know what to say, like quite an evolution. I feel like your sound is kind of like acid jazz sometimes, and you know, you kind of go into this anyway.
Well, it's, I think I had mentioned to you, like I was talking to a sound engineer, and and he just said, he suggested that I pick a genre because I just hop all over the place to so many different areas that I don't necessarily pick up the secrets or the you know, the attributes of one genre. He said, move on afterwards, but I have such a difficult time. Like for me, it's like, oh, there's a sound. I just have to explore it, right? And you know, it's so.
Yep. No, it's there's a whole debate about genres, and you know what I mean. But yeah, I think you're doing great anyways, regardless. Jeff.
I appreciate that, Lenny. Thank you.
Hey, and Jeff, I sense your confidence with the recording part of it, getting the placement of your instruments. I just feel like your recordings are more confident, more polished sounding. I've been sort of listening over the last year or so. Each one seems to, I don't know, you seem to be listening to what people say and then incorporating that. And you hear evidence of I feel like I've heard evidence of the evolution, even in the year that I've been listening. So,
well, thank you, Richard.
It's going somewhere.
Yeah, it's slowly, but this group is just amazing for feedback and just the talent, and inspiration. So
ultimately, of course, what we think doesn't matter. It's only what you think that matters. But
it simultaneously matters and doesn't matter, like in reality. But anyways,
feedback,
no, I'm thanks for the feedback about the group, by the way. I'm gonna clip that, but I always appreciate the good feedback about the group, and it has helped a lot of people over the years. So I'm glad to see that it's making some improvements, I guess.
Let's spin the wheel.
Yep. All right, Peter.
Good Lord. Yeah, well, so this is my first time here. I really haven't collaborated much with anyone. I'm a hobbyist producer. I've been doing it for about 4 years. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so it hasn't been that much time. I started off many years ago doing Scream Tracker and Impulse Tracker, if anybody knows that stuff. But I use FL Studio. Everything's out of the box. This particular song is someone contacted me, heard some of the songs that I made, and they wanted me to do something, and they wanted to sing over it. I sent them a few drafts, and they wouldn't send me any vocals, and I was sick of waiting. So I bought some vocals from Splice, and here they are. And I mean, generally, in this song and many others, one of the problems I have, I find things get a little bit boomy. And I just find I find things are a little bit boomy, and I'd like to be able to find some space, and this particular song was the guy referred me to a song called "Lonely Dancers" by Conan Gray, which I'd never heard before, but I listened to it. If anyone's heard it, but and so yeah, it's kind of a synth pop song. It goes along with you guys, except it's kind of on the opposite spectrum of synths. I think it's pretty bloody happy compared to most of your songs. So. Anyways, let's see.
All right, let's give it a listen.
radio-friendly Afro beats.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Radio-friendly Afro beats.
Thank you. Yeah, it's all very happy stuff. I can't get away from it. I try to do dark, and it
Someone has to
gets
be
very
happy around
happy.
here, man.
No,
Yeah.
don't apologize. Don't apologize.
Cheers.
Yeah, I really like the arrangement. There was a lot of variety, but not too much. You didn't sway too far from the main ideas, the beat. I think it always kept my interest, and I really do like the happy vibe that it has throughout, especially when you bring in some of the horns there too. So in the middle, and that break in the middle was beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I agonized over that break for a while. I always get nervous doing those, but half the time, yeah, I end up in a new song, and so that can be frustrating. Yeah. Hey, brother, hang on a sec. But thank you. No. Thank you, guys.
I will tell you something, Daddy.
Great job, man. And cute kid.
Sorry, please be quiet. A quick question. You know what? I use FL Studio, and I mean, one thing I noticed with your guys' productions, they have a lot of character in them. That feels like mine is lacking. Um, and I'm not sure I believe that's completely from analog instruments. Is that the case? Or can I get that kind of rich sound
can add
from
character
out of the
usually
box?
from
Hi.
the use of saturation
No.
and in an interesting way, like messing with the EQ on the saturation and the different drives, you can pull out some interesting harmonies, extra harmonies on instruments. Like not as much to sound like an electric guitar, but just enough to give it a little bit of color. That's what it's called, saturation color.
I mean, I back what Vosto does. I do that in like individual tracks and even on my master, like subtle saturation, which is, it's not distortion, it's just adding a little bit of excitement, and it almost simulates what an analog circuit would do to your digital sound, right? I don't know if FL has a built-in plugin that does
Yeah,
that,
I mean,
but,
luckily enough, getting in this later in life, I mean, it's
yeah.
software is not so expensive, so I have
Exactly.
a lot of the Pro L. Sorry, I've got the Saturn. I've got a few
There you go.
things. that-
Saturn
use
is really good.
myself.
Saturn,
So
I use Saturn on my stuff, so
yeah, and I mean, the trouble I guess I find with it is I do use it. Like with the vocals, I have parallel compression, parallel saturation, reverb, and delay. But I guess I mean, I use the saturation. I guess I've just never found that sweet spot. And it sounded like all of your songs before me, it just had this, I don't know, maybe it's just me, it's envy, but it had a vibe to it. But you think saturation is the answer?
I mean, you mentioned you talked about
and
being
placement.
boomy. It's also like making sure you don't add bass, you more cut bass as you work along with your tracks, and like especially in the high bass, like 150 to 250.
If there's too much stuff, you can't hear the character anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do cuts. I mean, I don't want to take up too much time, but I do lots of cuts. Like for instance, the snare on that is cut at like 650 hertz. It's got no low end, but because it hits every time, it only hits when the kick hits. Nobody misses it. Like, and I'm doing that across the board, but I still end up with this boominess. I mean, maybe it is to my mind, but
Do you use sidechain on the most popular topic? It seems like comes up every meetup, but
yeah. So the kick is sidechained to the instruments, to the rest of the drums, to the sub especially. The vocals are sidechained to the instruments to duck maybe 3 decibels out of the way, within say 1,000 to 5,000 kilohertz. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm doing all those sort of those things. Even with the reverb, I make sure that there's a very low decay on a number of instruments. The reverb for the vocal is sidechained to the vocal to keep that down. And I just still find it ends up very boomy. And so some of the tunes that I hear, this particular one I'm trying to emulate, It's just so crisp and clear, but the bass is still really tickling you. And even the high harmonics of the bass are still tickling you, but it doesn't have this
What's your
reverberation.
placement look like? What do you keep on the center? What do you put on or on the sides?
So center vocals, kick drum, snare. We go really wide with hi-hats. With the reverb, we go a little bit wider on vocals. Yeah, that's about all I worry about as far as stereo placement of things.
Because that can be also a key of unlocking something. The
Yeah.
whole placement idea.
Something, I guess it just feels like there's just always something hanging in the air in my songs where it just.
I mean, it sounded
It's
pretty
not there
radio
in other
friendly
ones.
to me,
Well, thank you. Okay.
I think you might be listening to your song critically too much, man. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
It was pretty good, especially for your first time showing something here. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I thought it was really good. The sound quality was really good. I find that it's always a struggle for me, and I hear that kind of struggle that going on in your voice. I just wonder, in many ways, if it's not part of the learning process and just part of the creative process when you're getting into technology, that that there's just so many buttons and pieces of equipment, and it just never ends. There's no easy way. Yeah. So part of the process I find is frustrating. It's part of this creative part, I guess.
Yeah. Well, what's the no art is finished. It's only abandoned, and yeah, I'm pretty good at abandoning things, and just trying to do it again better next time. So I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, you're more than welcome, and thank you for sharing. That was it's great. I'm gonna go and spin the wheel. Right, I got your name spelled right, Richard.
I'm up. I don't have too much to say. Started this piece around Christmas time, still unnamed, still unfinished. At this point, it's not like I've been working on it continuously since Christmas, by the way. It sat ignored for months, but periodically, I'll go back to it. Not really mixed. I think where I am now is I'm thinking that the beginning, the middle, and the end are in place. In other words, the entry is there. It resolves at the end. I'm happy with that. The middle part, I'm still filling in. So at this stage, I've got the time right. I think it's like 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes and 40 seconds, something like that. So now I'm going through voicing, don't like that sound, play it back with a different sound. And so, it's very iterative until it all falls into place. And so, just think about it in terms of the length, the transitions, going from section to section. You all tell me if any genre comes to mind when you think about it. I'm curious about that. It's kind of all over the place. What else can I say? It was recorded on Bitwig version 5 something or other, 5.1.2 or something like that. A lot of the internal Bitwig instruments. Plus, if you've heard other pieces I've played over the last year or so, I've been dabbling with 2 libraries. I have the Arturia library of all of these classic synthesizers, which is fantastic. There's all sorts of things. I think there's a DX7 in there and an ARP Odyssey, and also Korg has released software emulations of as many of its so-called classic synthesizers as well. There's a Triton and Monopoly and Poly 6 and
Are you
Jupiter.
saying this is, sorry to interrupt, are you saying this is part of Bitwigs?
No, those are the instrumentation that you're going to hear is the the internal set of Bitwig's internal synthesizers. They form the base, but also you're going to hear from these libraries from Arturia and from Korg. Yep, exactly. And folks have been making comments about 80 sound and stuff. So you all tell me, if it comes through, because these are so-called, they're software emulations of those synthesizers from those days. So why don't we play it? Talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, let's give it a listen.
It has no name.
Very fun song. I liked the positive vibe and the diversity, the richness of the synths. And also, I would recommend that you send it to a city builder gaming company. I think it's really good for that purpose. That's how I see it. Like a retro futuristic city builder.
City builder.
Because you want to relax and you want to feel good when you're building the city. So this is perfect.
Peter, it was happy, was it? Was it happy?
Yes, it was absolutely happy. I really liked it. It actually reminded me a lot of which something I've tried to produce a number of times, but Super Spike Volleyball soundtrack, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. But it's a certain 8-bit video game that had a lot of interest in it, and I liked it a lot. I'm amazed actually at how much it progresses and how many different melodies go in. As I do a lot of loops, and it sounded like you had 32 unique bars there. How do you go about that?
Well, it's I don't think it's materially different than anything that anyone else has described. It's just I have a short attention span, and so it goes out a few bars, and then I'm ready for something else. And so then there's another piece, and there's another piece. Lenny, you may remember, and Jeff and Gilles also. I've been one theme I've been exploring is long format electronic music or long format music in general.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with how short attention spans have gotten and how people just really, they won't put on a side of an album and listen to the whole side of the album, much less flip it over and listen to the other side, as people used to do. And so I had been making, 15, 20-minute long pieces, but it's difficult to keep people's attention. And so I've just been really focused on, as I'm grafting all of these pieces together and building transitions between the different sections, of thinking about, the listener, when would the ear get tired of that? It's an interesting rhythm. After 4 times, really, that's enough, and how can you build sort of a subtle change? Or, maybe I have the next iteration of that already built, and then I spend a lot of time building a bridge between these sections. And sometimes these sort of segue sections, for me, in retrospect, listening to them, turn out to be the most interesting things, because you're grafting ideas together, going from idea X to idea Y, and it has elements of both. Or maybe even if you're thinking 3 sections ahead, or if you're building these, I build these things very nonlinear. I might start at the end and do the beginning at the end, that sort of thing. Take sections that appear later on and then introduce them subtly throughout the 4-minute time span. And so I'm just thinking about the listener and trying to make an interesting piece, keep the listener's attention, not grow weary on the ear, and that's both harmonically and rhythmically also. So I like rhythms, as you can tell, also. So just trying to build a context for these things to make sense.
Well, I really enjoyed that.
I'm not sure I answered your question, though.
No, I mean, you did. I guess your answer. I try to do all of the same things, but I tend to try to do that with sound design, filters, EQ, whatever it is, with the same melody or the same, because it's such a challenge for me to go bar after bar after bar with unique melodies and progressions. And so I really admire that you're doing that in a way that I have difficulty with, and I find it very interesting. So, yeah.
That's the greatest compliment I've gotten in a long time, and thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Yay.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome.
It's always a very clean sound too, Richard. I think I've commented before, like you manage to just, that's the word that comes to mind. It's just bright, clean, just sounds, polished perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if that's the right word.
I like
The other
those
question-
glossy DX sounds. If those are the DX sounds, the glossy kind of like melodies, There were like
Yeah,
some
there was
shiny,
yeah,
glossy
there was
A
melodies.
lot.
a very percussive and bright sounding sound, and you picked it off exactly. Yep, you're exactly right.
Yeah, and
I'm
your
probably
music
wrong about the harpsichord. Sorry, but since I threw it in there, I had to ask. Like, and you were saying genre. Sorry, Joe. But like,
No worries, no worries.
it was kind of like Western-ish, or I don't even know what to call the instruments. Was there like a violin in there at some point? No? Banjo?
Only, only in your mind.
Striking out here. All right, no harpsichord. But yeah, I don't know what genre
It
I would
felt
even
like
call it, though.
a demo to the entire Arturia collection.
I think Richard's always takes us on journeys in his music. It's very rare that you'll get, you know, a chorus, verse, chorus, bridge. It's usually just like a beautiful jam. You know, whatever instrument you take, it's always there's a bass with the rhythm and whatnot, and then over top it's just this beautiful journey that just meanders. Meanders is the word that always comes back when I hear your music. Just meanders, and it just takes us on a journey. And that's definitely your style, and it lends itself to what you're aiming for. This long duration songs, because you don't get sick of it. You don't get sick of it at all, and it's always very seamless. Every part is always seamless. You don't know unless you pay attention to it. Oh, now we're in a different section. Very rarely do we actually see that we've gone to a different section. That's definitely a skill there.
You don't see all the band-aids and you know, the glue that sticks it all together. That's good. That's excellent. Well, in another time,
there's nothing wrong with those other types of music. I make some of those where, you know, you have the chorus, but then, you know, you got your drop, and wow, you know, you're in a different section. That's one style. But yours is the meandering. That's what I've seen so far, and it works. I really like it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gilles. I really enjoy going out and listening to jazz music live, and you've got that kind of 80s, 90s sound of the jazz, and that's what you hear in so many ways. If I'm going out to a club, you know, I'm getting some great music. I'm getting that sound that you're bringing forward, and I really enjoy it. And long songs are quite typical in a
that's
jazz
true.
instrumental genre. And I really appreciate it a lot. And I also really liked how you get your percussive melody going. It's really rather than relying on drums just for your melody, you're using your keyboards and so on melodically and percussively, and building on that. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So I guess the thing is if you're talking about a song, you could take what you have there, and if you wanted to produce the music differently, you could cut it into many different types of pieces. But largely, I appreciate and I really like musicians who can just progress naturally, like you've done. I find that to be a real talent.
Thank you.
And just to remind myself, you're using the piano roll a lot, actually, right? In your production, or are you using a MIDI controller or a mix of both? Just remind me.
I have a MIDI controller, and I do play the parts like Vosto. Or maybe unlike Vosto, I don't know. I'm a terrible keyboardist, and so and also in terms of time base, there's all, you know, even if I think I'm on the beat, once I look at the MIDI events themselves, many of them aren't on the beat, and so as opposed to quantizing everything, so it's right on. I do go in and edit quite a bit, and you know, certain things that are not on the beat, but I leave it there. It sounds okay. Other things
You
I
can
don't, you know, and
also
so
automate the quantization to like 90% so that it's not perfect, and it like puts all the notes, all the sounds, but at 90% accuracy, so it still
but
sounds natural.
But I don't need the quantizer to be almost 90, you know, because I'm almost 90% myself, you know. So, almost there. But yes, to your point,
95.
Put it on the keyboard, play it on the keyboard, and same thing for the drum parts. Trigger the MIDI events myself from the pads and the keyboard, so the drums are performed also. I was going to say that a year ago or so, even though there were that many transitions in that short 4-minute piece, that would have been like the introduction to the rest of the piece, and that, so as it's fading out, something else would have come in and it would have gone on another 10 minutes, and it's just, it's just hard for people to listen to that is what I'm realizing, so I put a link in the chat. That's the YouTube topic. There's a couple of albums on there. Someday, Lenny, if we have a long format show and everyone brings a 10-minute piece and we do,
I was just about to say this. No, sorry.
we do
I was
four
literally-
pieces instead of 40 of them,
Right.
I'll play some longer pieces, 10 or 15 minutes. But you have to really, but this is the right group for that, right? This is a very sort of folks have very evolved listening. So sure, let's do it sometime.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I would be happy to hear one of your longer format tracks, and we could certainly either have a format for that or for yourself. Feel free. I mean, I don't mind.
Cool.
If you want to
I'll do
play
it.
like a 30-minute track, I'm down.
Yep.
This is only for you though, Richard. Maybe Vosto. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, thank you again for sharing.
Thanks for listening.
It's always great to hear.
I didn't even feel the length of your song. It was like candy, so I didn't feel it. It was good,
That's a great compliment though, right? Next thing you know, it's over. That's it.
Yeah, no, that's a huge compliment. I know what I did. I hit add names. Oh shoot. I'm like, am I really the only one left in the list? I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. Okay, but yeah. Anyways, I did actually release a EP last week. I was originally going to release something in February. It's literally the first time. I was surprised when I realized this myself that I hadn't actually put together a collection of tracks before. And so anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and play one of those tracks, and I guess talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, man, drum and bass. Let's go. I'm ready to party.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Like, yeah, very, very boomy, really old school, and like a nice, clean synth wave. Not a lot of messing around with it. I really love that. That was great.
Yeah, thanks.
It's a mantra of interesting soundscape.
Yeah,
I
it's
feel-
weird that
With some interesting little changes sometimes, because it wasn't always the same. It was like that thing that went on down, 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 down. That felt like some kind of dinosaur was chewing into your soul. You sometimes modified that and added something to it, so that was really cool. I like the background, little noisy stereo kind of, you know, like industrial kind of thing going on in the background, but like it didn't. The drums were still clear and stuff, so you knew how to place that sound to just give the right effect to the song with that noise. So, pretty cool experimental drum and bass, bro. A nice
Yeah,
album.
thanks.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I mean that track. Just a couple of points there, Richard. You mentioned earlier about like the quantizing or whatever. Well, that's the thing with that bass. It is, you know what I mean, off. There's kind of 4 variations, and each one itself has a bit of character. So even though it's the basic melody, if you want to call it that, or the same notes, but it's that irregularity that was very interesting to me, and that's something that I've kind of touched on lately myself. I felt like I was over quantizing my bass lines, I would say, perhaps, if that's a thing. But I mean, I guess it is a thing. And so yeah, and I really struggled though, frankly, from the engineering perspective with, like, I loaded that track up into the DJ software and it's red, like the whole thing. Like there's so much bass going on in that thing. So I was wondering if it was too much mud, perhaps, like with 2 different basses going as well.
Yeah,
But
I
I
mean,
feel like it kind of works though.
absolutely, it works. The one thing, I mean, I really like that snarl bass that you added on top. I mean, first of all, there's a constant sub bass throughout the entire track, which is intriguing and is going to get people out of their, out on the dance floor. Um, and I like that the mechanical sort of was like an extra sub bass on top of it. But I mean, the one thing, if you're looking for a tweak, again, take it with a grain of salt. But I think that if there were a couple half-second breaks of that sub where it turned down, where it disappeared, because it's really present the entire time. So after a certain period, it's hard to tell that, I mean, the thing is pounding, but like I notice it's pounding when you pull everything back, but I think I would notice the pounding more if you just pull the bass back a quarter second here and there so that we could feel it without it, and then it comes back in.
Right.
And that would be the one thing I would say. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting that you mentioned that. I remember when I made it, there was like, without the second bass layer, that real sub bass, it changes every I guess 16 bars or whatever. Like it's delayed on one section, and then it comes back again, and then it's delayed. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's a subtle thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it
Yeah.
changes. It's interesting. It's fantastic. I mean, and I mean, I'm a big drum and bass fan. I'm a huge drum and bass fan. Um, I just after it felt heavy after a certain point, and you want this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I want
This
to
thing is
breathe for a
red the whole
short
way
period.
through. It's
Yeah.
like and I also threw the other thing I'll add like is like the bass sound was already pretty cool, and then I added the effects from Serum. I really like the effects from Serum. So even if you're not using Serum, but you can
Okay.
apply the effects, that's a little trick I heard, frankly. And it has some very, very interesting impacts. And I used that one on the bass, and it has like that kind of trailing effect. So anyway,
So what did you put on the bass there? I mean, I'm wondering because again, it's very full. Like it's something I just started.
like compression, I guess, distortion. Um, those
What
are the
about that
2.
sub filter, Lenny?
Well, the sub filter could be there on the drums, I think, possibly. You know.
Nice.
But I do use sub filter a lot. Yeah, and thank you, Tiny Bites, for pointing that out. That's a good way to beef up anything like a bass line, a drum.
It's a free plugin too.
There's a
What's
free
it?
and then there's a synth one, which is you pay for. I actually have both. I end up using the free one though. That's the funny part. Like I bought like the non-free one, and I was like, you know what, the free one's better. Oh well, it's not very
Yeah, yeah,
expensive
me
actually.
free. Yeah, I got it too.
But what else was I gonna say? Yeah, the side chaining, you know what I mean, was it's definitely part of that. Uh, but anyways, you can check out the I'll put a link to the I think Vostel did on somewhere else, but I will put it here in this chat.
I mean, I loved it. I mean, it's so hard, and I mean, maybe, I mean, again, it's probably just me, but I haven't heard stuff like that in a while, and I don't know. Maybe it's just my circles, but you hear a lot of the it had a very almost jungle feel to it. The bass, I mean, where it's just so faithful to the sub, which you just don't hear anymore. I mean, they're so obsessed with the crackle of the top of the sub or something else. And this thing was just, listen, if your subwoofer is smaller than 12-inch, like don't bother, don't play this song. You know.
I also want to say, man, your album description and like this the hatred towards capitalism that is just like seething through the whole EP. I love it. It's a great
I
concept.
was trying to take a neutral approach, frankly, but I mean, you know, I appreciate the interpretation. I mean, that's how you view it. I was really, yeah, actually, that's an interesting thing to say. Like, it's very abstract, I mean, the
Okay.
music itself. But I thought, what about using? I know Vostel, you mentioned always or oftentimes making a story, right? And you literally create a story. I mean, your latest album is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, stories that are too long and no one reads.
No, I read it. I thought it was really cool. I thought that was
All
really
right,
cool. I
thanks,
think you
man.
could, yeah. But I was gonna say, like, you know, I remember even with abstract or experimental compositions, you can still tell a story and you still have a middle, beginning, and an end. You know what I mean? And so it's not necessarily have to be a literal story. But I thought, what about if I have a thesis instead of a story, like an actual like master's level, you know, like paper that you research. So I actually researched this topic, and you know, and it was sort of the inspiration as I was making the music. You know what I mean? But the interesting thing about it is I think that it's a very loaded term. You know, people have such a reaction to that term, and it's a concept that I thought it would be kind of weird. I think I spoke about it on the last whatchamacallit meetup, but I just thought it would be something that would, like I say, it's abstract, but based on actual real theory. And it may give people a vocabulary, frankly, to express ideas that they feel but don't have the words for. You know, like when you talk about capitalism as the conflict between labor and usury, when I heard that, I was like, whoa, okay, this is actually very meaningful to me, right? So I feel like if you look back to the Occupy Wall Street protests, there was a lot of people protesting, but it wasn't really a coherent narrative of what exactly they were protesting. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say, you know? And so I think this is sort of the concepts to put those words to those feelings to say, hey, guess what? This is what it actually is. I mean, based on my research, um, you know, and it's also the theft of labor, right? I mean, human labor creates value, and then um, the kind of global, you know, the finance side, the usury side, basically just steals that surplus labor. Then you know, we live in a world. I was chatting about this before, where you make more money from money than you do from producing something, like literally. So if you look at that as our guiding principle, like what the incentives are, right? Anyway,
I'm with you. Absolutely. Yeah. However, I'm more interested in their sub frequencies than, yeah, the subcontext of society. But I'm with you. It's terrible.
and I wanted it to be like a discussional thing too. Like it isn't like, okay, here's what it is, and you know, there's enough room that anyone can interpret it, right, in so many different ways. So, you know, I feel like it's music at the end of the day, right? So I'm not,
I love it.
you know,
I feel, I mean, to me, I've done it and I've really modeled I've only been doing it for about 4 years as a hobbyist, and I've really modeled it after sort of what's popular, what sounds good, and everybody here is in a lot seems driven artistically, and I feel a little bit like a black sheep in that, like, I just go with what sounds good, and all of you have a philosophy. I definitely don't. I got to make a grilled cheese sandwich in the morning and like get the hell out the door. And I'm really impressed with all of you because all of your music was very unique and yeah, really exciting. There's not a single thing I didn't like, which I definitely expected not to like a number of tracks that I heard tonight.
You know
And
what? I
yeah,
tell you, Peter, just like this is, we've been here, many of us,
This
for a
was
long
fairly
time.
typical.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you say this was fairly typical
but I'm just
of
saying,
one of these events? Yeah.
I can never guarantee that it's going to be good, but it just happens to be good every time. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
knock on wood. So yeah, and I hope to. But by the way, we still have time.
No, I'm sorry.
If anyone
Yes.
wants to share another tune, no. This discussion is great. I was just suggesting if people do want to hear some more music, and if you have another tune up your sleeve that you wanted to share, I know Vostol's got another 14 just from that record, so we could play one from his album. But what do you guys think? Should we
Well,
load
just
up?
before you move on, I really appreciate your mirror between your music and the economic, social impact, and just the power-driven angst that comes through in your songs is just fantastic. Thank you.
Well, thanks. And I mean, I should say those tracks are made to be played at loud volume. I mean, I'm not just saying that. I literally try to engineer it so that it will still sound like proper. You know what I mean? That particular track is the most challenging one, frankly, on that. But because that's something I've noticed that we spoke about so many times when you play some of these tunes and it still cuts through on a big PA system. Yeah, you still hear the clarity. I'm just like, wow, these people are like scientists. It's not just art. It's literally like to a level that, I mean, we've spoken about Noisia and Black Sun Empire. I mean, pushing current
Current value.
I mean, just pushing it to literally like to areas that have never been pushed before, frankly.
I mean,
Yeah, to the point where they even disbanded the band because it was like they were working so much and that it got to a level where it's got super annoying. Like it's hard to push boundaries, you know.
Well, at my end, it sounded
tired,
the track
gets-
sounded fantastic, Lenny. It sounded
Yeah,
really
thanks.
crisp. And I would echo what Peter said, though, that growling bass is so cool that if you could isolate it a few times,
Yeah.
a bit
Now I
more.
know what you're saying. Yes. When I think about how I started that track, I was using what the heck's the name of that? Hexel. So it's like the 6-dimensional arpeggiation, if you will. So it has like musical notes arranged kind of like in 6-sided, what is it? Hexagram or whatever? Hexagon. And so that's what that is from. It's like, and one of the things, it's a sort of a detail, but if you've ever used Hexel, it doesn't actually use MIDI. You see what I mean? Like the VST itself is kind of like a pattern creator, and then you route it to another VST. So if you want to not hear something, you have to kind of do like volume automation. Like that's how I've been doing it. You know what I'm trying to say? Like I can't actually just like not have the MIDI there. Like it will just play. So that's why that track from beginning to end, you hear that sound you're talking about. It's actually one of those like arpeggiations that keeps going on and on. But I hear what you're saying now. Yeah, I totally hear you because I heard that myself the other day. Because at certain times, it's a very nice compliment and it kind of gives you that little. I know what you mean now. Yeah, I find.
Yeah, but it was really clean, very clean. I liked it very much.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I heard that I liked is that when you're making like electronic music that's at a really high volume level, it's less of a like a knit and more of a checkered pattern, and that you got to kind of pick and choose what you're going to showcase from moment to moment because there's no way, like you can't have your sub bass at -6 lufs throughout the whole goddamn thing. Like it's going to squash everything else and get out of the way. So you have to have your sub basses displaying, then you've got your lead displaying. Then I mean, obviously you want to link it together, but it's just not possible to have these big grand sounds coming out with sub bass, highs, mids, mid lows. There's only a certain amount of space. So yeah, and I guess just the like changing things, like your ears have to, like I love, like I was a bass head growing up. I mean, I either want to know what I put in the trunk of my car when I was a teenager, right? But it has, you have to have this variation and these changes. So, anyways,
For loofs meter, I recommend a really cool meter, like all kinds of metering, not just that. It's called VUMT Deluxe, made by programmer
Cool.
Klanghelm, is like from Germany, and he also makes compressors. But this is if you put one of these meters on each of your tracks, and then one on your master, you can keep it safe for loud speaker systems, if you know how to meter. And I post the link in the chat.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And thanks for posting the link, Paul, to that Hexel. If you guys want to check that out.
Could I ask for a request? Maybe another song from Bosto's.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that
I mean,
possible?
I'm mentioning for Bosto. What do you think?
I mean, we could all do another round. How about we do that?
But you may have one there.
What?
Yeah, we could do both. You know what I mean? We could start with you, Bosto, and then while we're playing your tune.
Yeah, we can do the same thing again. What track should we play? I know you wanted Final Push, but I don't think we should do that one. I think we should do the title track again, or maybe or maybe They Will Not Die. We could play that. I don't know, man. It's complicated to choose between 14 potential candidates. But I think Station 23, just play the title track.
Station
just go ahead and pick your favorite.
Oh, the title track of the album, Station 23. We can go with that one. And if you're curious,
they're literally all good. So okay.
Well, of course, that's
if you're curious about
choice.
it, listen on the album and
man. It's definitely, it's a serious album. It works really well. All right, let's give that one a spin then. I'll go with the Station 23.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Sorry, really amazing. I want to jump in. The sub and then that complementary, it's almost like a counter melody that was going on with the sub. The kind of crispy part on top was fantastic. I'd love to know how you made it. Like, was a reverb involved with that sub?
Like I said, it goes through the 1965 sewing machine. No.
Yeah.
So the bass.
But
you
what's
mean?
VST started before the sewing machine?
Oh, yeah, I believe it's perhaps Synapse Audio Legend for the deep
Okay.
bass sound, which is it's a
Okay.
Moog, it's a mini Moog emulator basically. So it's
Okay.
very basic, but you tweak it and then you add a little bit of saturation and
I mean, I don't know that the synthesizer is
EQ
that
and
important, but there was a fantastic sub with a lot of grittiness, but then this complementary part that came on top that,
I mean
that seemed to go with
the
the
gritty
sub,
stuff, the top layer of the bass,
the top layer of the, but it
when
didn't.
that comes and goes. Antoine?
It comes and goes, and it didn't seem to be directly related to what was going on with the sub bass, but it complemented
Mhm.
beautifully. Like,
Yeah, that was.
yeah, it was fantastic, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
this is a song that developed in time. So I made it last year, the main idea of it, but then I completed it after winter. And basically I played more with the high frequency stuff because I had the bass, I had the mids, but then I was wondering what is lacking, but obviously the answer was the high stuff. So that's when I got that shaker that's a bit high frequency. I go like, and then the snare thing, like it was there's one snare and there's another kind of thing that goes more high frequency there, but you don't hear it, but you hear it in the frequency spectrum. And then that creates the nice balance between all the stuff and all the stuff, and then at the top, So it's really cool. And then the bass goes like, and then it goes down and more down, and that creates more like bass face, And then you have that top layer of bass. That's an effect. It doesn't have. It just has its own, like you said, it's not exactly following the notes, but that's because it's supposed to be a growly effect at the top.
But is that something? Is that something that you like that high end? Is that or that extra effect? Have you cut the frequencies, the sub bass frequencies, or does that have additional sub bass frequencies that blended? Like you must have done some kind of EQ cut. That's
of course. Yeah, well, the top layer, the top layer of bass, which is like above 300 hertz, is definitely sculpted a bit, because that's how I think in terms of music. I think in the 3 dimensions and the spectrum, So every time I create a sound, I have to sculpt it for the purpose. So, like I said, when building a snare, it's the snare. Like I think about the fundamental, which could be 200 hertz, could be 300 something hertz, 400 hertz. So I make that fundamental, and then if it has the next part in that sample, if it's good, I keep it. If not, I make other layer with the top layer of the snare. And that's how you do it. And the kick doesn't have, like in this track, it's just supposed to complement the bass, so it's not supposed to be too much content in the kick, but it just needs to be like a in there, and so you have to sculpt that too. And with the equalizer, like it's not a big deal. It's just you have to think about what do you want to make with the track, and then you think in steps, and you feel a lot of things too. Obviously, that bell stuff that I had going on, it's a very emotional song, and then to add more character to those bells and make it sound like it's from a post-apocalyptic movie, like the guy, the explorer, goes through the buildings that are dusty and sees this goes into a basement and sees grabs a music box from the ground. So he shakes the dust and then tries it on to see if the music box is still working. It's still working, but it's a little bit broken. So that's why you add a little bit of the distortion on the bells, but it's dangerous because bell sounds already have their own inner distortion. So you have to be careful to not sound too harsh when it plays. You have to be careful with those settings there. So I like this song because it's a mix of bass, but it also has emotional elements to it. And like you were saying, stopping the sub bass and then coming again with it, stuff like that. Making the second drop bigger than the first drop.
Again, it's a lot of I need to listen to this a lot more to get all of that. But the things that really caught me was that the relationship between that sub bass and the layer on top, and that was not directly connected. And they really worked together, like they felt like the same sine wave. They didn't. So and the rest of that is just icing on the cake and went above my head. But I love those two.
I'm
Those
not
two layers.
so good at explaining it too, because I'm not a big engineer, but I can tell what sounds cool, and I just do what sounds cool.
Yeah, so do I, but yours sounds cooler. So,
well,
yeah, very good.
If you put me to make a radio friendly song like yours, like I wouldn't be able to do that. I'm just good with my dark experimental stuff,
No, you'll never get Taylor Swift on that track. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We each have our own qualities and our certain fields.
I invited Taylor, but she didn't respond. But she's certainly welcome to.
All right, I'll send her a message. Give me a sec.
So
I like it. That was great.
If you're curious to see,
it still stands, Tyler. If you're listening, you're more than welcome.
Curious, I'm not spamming or anything, but I think like you are curious about the sounds that I make. So
absolutely
check. I'll link again the album to my Bandcamp if you want to listen to the full journey. It's in the chat.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. Very good.
Yeah, the melodies are so strong with most of your music, a lot of your music, and you have interweaving different, and even your bass line can interplay with your melody too, right? Like in this track, as you were kind of saying. So it's very, I don't know, it's engaging. You're on a journey, and you're constantly morphing and going along with it.
Yeah.
So
I think in scenes, like I think movie scenes in my head, cinematic, but it also has to make you nod your head, dance a little bit, in a dark way, but kind of like listening to like a gothic metal or something. But I mean, I'm not doing gothic metal. I'm just saying it's the same type of expression where you have a certain scene and like, the goth people, they think about gothic castles and beautiful women with white skin and black lipstick. And they just listen to that and they make the beautiful gothic song, but they also have darkness in it and heavy guitars and big drums. So I'm doing the same, but in the electronic music and post-apocalyptic environment and cyberpunk stuff and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yes, and we. By the way, Peter, I was just going to say we'd also have a Discord. I can send you the link.
Yeah, sure. That's going on more than once a month, or.
Yeah, I mean, we the Discord. No, the Discord is basically just always going.
But, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be great. I mean, I'm pretty new to social media too, so.
Oh, that's good. We hang out there too, but in text.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. I would love to. Yeah, please invite me. And this has just been fantastic. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I was just saying if we can give feedback on each other's stuff there too. Like.
Yeah.
This is the official one where we showed our best stuff, but in between, we can show other experimental,
the-
smaller stuff on the Discord.
The dog shit comes out. Yeah. No, I did a song a while ago, and I ended up getting. I use a lot of vocals from Splice, and it was like a J-pop, or no, it was J-pop samples. It was like a Japanese song, and I threw it on top, and I was like, man, I love this. Like, I really love these funny little J-pop samples, and like, I wouldn't have normally, done a song like that, but it's a lot of fun. And you share it with someone, you say, hey, you got something going on there, and or even, to be honest, like I said, hearing every one of your songs was very inspiring, because they're all very high quality, and in a sound that like I'm like, oh yeah, I remember, I really like that stuff. So yeah. Anyways,
Well, we're genre all over the map. I mean, it really depends on the members. So like we have everything, even acoustic hybrids with electronic, and so it's nice, frankly, to get. I have over the years got to listen to all this variety as well, which has been quite
hey,
amazing.
good for you.
And with the exception of what Volsto played, which are presented as finished tracks released, most of what people are playing is what's in progress, right? They're works in progress, semi-finished. Sometimes the same work comes back a few times. You can hear it progress over time. That's always interesting too.
That's true.
But even when I release it, it's still a work in progress. The only reason why I release it because I'm tired of it sitting in the folder.
I've talked many times. How do you know when it's done? I never know when it's done, right? It's just move on to something else. So,
but yeah, Voster, you got to give us hope. I mean, yes, that was done. That's good. Good. It's done. It doesn't get any better. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but yeah, I thought it sounded fantastic.
I totally loved it. Yeah, and on that bass, when you hit it with, I don't know, maybe it was you hit it with some saturation at one point, and it just really morphed, and I just totally like that.
It's always good to create a wall of sound, Not all the time, in certain parts.
Well, but did those pieces go through so-called mastering software, or does it come out of the DAW and
mastering
you released it as it was, or?
You can laugh at my mastering if you were to see it, but it's pretty simple, like EQ, compressor, limiter, and then that's it. Leave a little bit of headroom for the streaming services.
Right.
Otherwise, it does distortion, digital clipping, so I don't want that.
Just curious, some folks, when they're on these calls, are talking about all the plugins they use for the ozone or services, and just how much
you can make big sound
post-production, right? The production itself, Peter, is one thing, and then all the stuff that happens afterward, to get the right level, the number of luffs, to get it sounding loud, blah blah blah, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've always found again, I'm a total amateur, but I'm not. I don't want to spend money on any of these services. I've tried to master my own tracks, but like, to me, it seems like if you do it right from the start, you do the best you can.
From the channels.
From the channels, from the very beginning, you end up with, whatever level you need, and it sounds good. I could send it to a mastering guy, but I'd have to turn it down before I send it to him, and then he's going to send it back to me sounding similar. I don't know. I mean, because it's not to say that he's not a good mastering engineer, but I'm giving him a certain level of quality, and my level of like polish kind of matches the level of quality that went into it in the first place. So why the hell am I going to send it out to someone else? Have it polish this turd that I have. Let's have the turd polish the turd, and it'll be right on the same level. And yeah,
sometimes he modifies the whole vision of your song, and you might actually not like it, and then end up wasting money.
But you can have it in line, right? I mean, as you're alluding to, Richard. So rather than doing it, like, you can have.
If you work in the studio with the studio engineer, then yes. Like, if you are right there next to him and you're working together on something, it would, like, maybe then. But if you just leave your song entirely to this other guy who probably doesn't have the time, like, you spend 20 hours on your song, and this guy, like, in an hour, he can't really understand all the little things you
Or-
try to express. So he might remove the entire body of a main synth that you actually wanted to have the body, you know?
That's true. Yeah. But even less than employing someone to actually master your track for you, the use of mastering software, and I'm thinking of Ozone in particular.
Yeah, but
there's
but
been-
Ozone, I was just trying to say, Richard,
I
you
don't
can
like
have
the
that.
presets
You can
of
have it
Ozone.
in your DAW too, right? So you don't have to do a post production, but you can use
Oh.
whatever in your chain, obviously.
I follow.
Well,
Yep.
I mean, I'll tell you, Richard, what I do. I just recently purchased the
Good point.
Ozone 11, and I mean, I find that the end result is very similar to what I was doing before. But what I find convenient is when I'm making a song, I put a limiter on the master track. I add 6 dB, and then when I want to and I master it, or mix it, I get everything ready. Then I pull the 60 dB down, and then I take it out and I master it with some headroom. Anyways, I put it into like in this particular song I sent you. It's like minus 11 loofs, but I just threw it into Ozone, did it the quick thing, the quick AI master, and the sync sounds bloody fantastic. It's very similar to what I had originally, but the volume goes up. It's very good, but um, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's not better than what my ear can do, and my ear is lacking. I have 4 years of hobby experience. You see how much free time I have based on the family visits. So it's nice to give a quick polish in my mind, but I don't think it's any better than a good ear. So, yeah.
I have some kind of detail sensitive thing. So like I didn't like the Ozone plugin because it altered some of the specifics I had. So I'm cursed to do my own things because if I send it to someone else, it's gonna alter something that I liked. So I'll just have to do it myself. That's
Yeah. Yeah, I can entirely get that. And I mean, to me, mastering is a bit of an alien thing. It just seems odd. I mean, because you have all again, maybe I'm wrong because but you have all the tools that you need in the mastering phase, or sorry, in the mixing phase. So why the hell don't you use them and get it sounding perfect? Why do you have to send it to somebody else?
Well, let's say you're putting like an EP, for example. You have to carefully match the volumes, right, for each
Good
track.
point.
I
Yep.
mean, even
Yep.
if you want to do that but sometimes you might have different settings from track to track, so there's perceived, loudness too. It's not even
But would
real
it would it
loudness.
make a difference if you had one track was -8 lufs and the other one was -8.4? Would that?
I don't know about the loves, but you could hear it. You know what I mean? Like I literally, I'm very sensitive to that when you're DJing, right? You'll find that the older tracks are like way lower in volume, so I have to like compensate.
Of course,
Like,
yeah.
whoa, this is like, an older track. All right, gotta
Yeah,
pump
yeah,
it
yeah.
up. But no, I hear you. I mean, I saw like the Pro Tools, I think, is a popular one in the actual studios, I believe. Maybe it's not so much anymore, but back in the day, and I think they have, I saw one setup where it was just 6 in their mastering chain. This guy just used like 6, but the major one is the maximizer, right? I guess. So if you really just want to have consistent volume, I guess.
That maximizer is fantastic, I have to say. But at the same, I mean, again, like you could just there's that clip to zero method, which I typically use, or I don't know. I just find it comes from the bottom
Well,
up. Like
I'm reading this now. Keep all tracks at -6 dB. and then
another
put
trick.
ozone.
I have another trick. I have a device that makes the bass mono, so I think that's also important. Centers the
Actually,
sub
and
bass.
vinyl mastering. We're not even
well,
talking. We're talking digital, right? I'm sorry, but if you ever want to do vinyl, man, sorry, Vostel. Just continue.
just a mono sub bass. That's it.
Yeah. Speaking of mono sub bass, I mean, they talk about phasing issues. If you mono your sub bass and you're going to take your 2 stereo signals and put them together, if you're going to have phasing issues, aren't you just going to put them together right then when you make it mono? Like, if it's stereo, you have phasing issues. You make it mono, now you have
Yes,
hard baked
you have-
phasing issues,
You
right?
have more phasing issues.
Well,
Depends
nothing you
on the
can-
track, I guess, man. But
Yeah.
you
But it's
know,
not
I
necessarily
found it
the right
makes
thing.
more room in it's not, but it makes sometimes it makes good room in your mix, you know. Like remove some of that muddy stuff.
Hmm.
You know. That's what I noticed. Like one of the little tricks people can try and do. I'm not saying they should do it on all songs.
One of the things, I mean, on a tangent, what I find so I mean, interesting at one point and disheartening at the other is when they, you go on some YouTube and some asshole tells you to take the spectrometer out and you realize you're losing half a dB on every second snare hit because the kick isn't quite driving at that phase with the goddamn snare. And it's like you get caught in the weeds in this. Um, but maybe you don't, right? Like, so that song I just played for you, there's a part where it plays three kick drums in a row instead of every quarter bar, every half bar, and it the volume consistently drops ever so slightly because there's these, I guess there's phase issues going on with what's going on there. So, I mean, how would you correct that where, because I have a tom layered on top of it, and then there's a kick drum. And then you notice, yeah, the volume is going down so it goes boom, 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 and it's down, 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 down.
The
But take
tails
Richard's
on
got
care,
the
his hands
tom.
up.
See.
Yeah, yeah, sorry.
Well, actually, I think Tiny Bites. He just sent me a tune, so you guys want to give that a spin and
Yeah, let's listen to it.
we'll resume the talk. So, anything you wanted to say, Tiny Bites?
Yeah, it's just it's a hardware jam using it's old school straight to tape. There's nothing fancy, just a pedal drum machine and 303s. That's all. That was just a fun little thing that's no computers.
Okay, old school. All right, let's give it a listen.
That's called a noodle.
I'm waiting for the drop.
I actually it went on
Uh,
it went on for a bit. Got a snippet of it and recorded it while we were sitting here. So it's the actual recording goes on and on and on, but it's on tape. So I was trying to jump it from tape, put it into live so that I could bounce it to SoundCloud. So I just grabbed a little snippet of it. But that's just like, like when you're on the phone and you're doodling with a pencil. I just love the 303. So
yeah, It's a cool vibe, dude. It's wiggling around like dun, 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 dun. Like I got into that. I was bouncing around. It was fun.
I like that wiggling around. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, unfortunately, most of the like I have a lot of acid tracks, but they're 8 minutes long, so they just go on and on and on. But
Yeah, and then you filter and stuff, huh? And just play around.
and that's the thing. You only have two hands, so and I don't have Electron. Everything I have is older school, so it's you're talking DIN connections and stuff like that. So it's one is maintaining clock, which some of the older analog doesn't do well. So you're constantly trying to hit. You master stop and play in like
Time it.
yeah, like
Yeah, did you know that the Terminator soundtrack had the same thing? Brad Fiedel, the composer, explained how the tudum tum tudum tum thing. It's not like a time signature that he thought of like too much. It's just the looping machine not being able to loop exactly. So that's what creates the that complex time signature.
It's a happy accident.
Yeah, but it turned out to be iconic, and yeah,
a lot
it's
of them.
great.
Most of my music is like that, to be honest. You go, oh shit, that sounds good. We'll keep that.
It's the days, like I still rock my old Amiga. I love trying to take all those samples, then sample them into because you only got four sounds you can work with. And it was such a mess because the mixer on board, like on the Amiga, for example, is 4-bit, and then the sampling was 8-bit, or sorry, was 12-bit. And I had to make my own sampler from scratch. I actually still have that old thing, where to sample my sounds in, and but I love it. There was an energy, something you could do with it, an energy you could do with like those old school.
I had the Amiga back in when was it? Must have been the mid '80s. Just from a graphics point, and I was doing some music on it back then. I just love that thing.
It was quite the I don't know, Motorola was like they were amazing, and but yeah, it was just a fun thing. I mean, the 64, was also, I mean, Lenny's apparently got one hiding somewhere. I want to get that from him.
Yeah, I used to have a lot, but I have still a few remaining, kind of.
Yeah, well, I
Uh,
find the
I have like the Commodore 64 keyboard. I think that's what you're referring to, right?
yeah, you had the keyboard thing, yeah.
Yeah,
I was hoping you had the
Melodrone, or I forget the name of it.
Melodrome, is it?
I don't know.
it was light keyboard. I think it was 3 octaves, small keyed, um, for the Commodore 64. Yeah. Apparently we have one. I just don't know where it is.
But I used the Cubase on Amiga back in the day. I don't know if you guys ever did that.
I think I used something called Dr. T's. It was event based, and yeah.
I just loved, I mean, being able to play a video game when you put a cassette tape in. You press play and you're playing a bloody, like, Spy versus Spy on Commodore 64. It's surreal.
Yeah,
Anyways.
I remember seeing that on those old what was it, the PET, I think it was called, computer with the green that was it's on the cover of Kraftwerk Computer World. That like it's like one big plastic mold where like the screen and the keyboard are in the same mold or whatever.
Commodore.
Right.
And that was the first time I saw that in like a game being loaded with a tape cassette. As a kid, I couldn't comprehend that,
It was bizarre. Yeah, like you could walk left and right and the bloody tape is just spinning. Play the whole tape, and then you're playing the video game for 20 minutes later or
Or the
2 hours
idea that you
later.
could
But
play the tape and then stop the tape and then play the game. I was like, what? Shouldn't the tape be moving like as I don't know. The idea that you could load it into RAM, I guess, had not been explained to me by my teacher.
yeah,
It was probably more illiterate than me.
Good old
Who
days.
knows? This was the early days of computing for me. But
can argue, but very good.
anyways,
But
that was really
yeah,
cool though, Tiny Bites. That you got a knack for your, you know, you either make tracks that are like 90 seconds long or 6 minutes long, I guess, by the sounds of it.
Well, no, that was just a drum machine that a delay pedal set with ping pong, and that was it. It just went straight into a cassette player, and that was the and not even a mixer, just my cassette recorder has a built-in mixing unit, so my brother was moving and he found the old deck that I had, one of the decks that I gave him to record his stuff. I got it home and went, "Oh, I'm doing this." So it was old school. 2 units, made it up, just little groove, and so it's nothing that's where you're sitting down and spending hours like fine tuning it. It was just turn them on and create something the old way, and programming on that like the 303 is the absolute piece of crap to program on. So
Well, and I got to say, the fact that you're the only one without video, and that you seem to be doing everything via hardware. It seems like you're an entirely different species plugged into this one. Because I know Vosto doesn't have much hardware. I have virtually none. I don't know about you,
I
you
have a
guys, but
guitar.
yeah, we get to her. I believe you. But yeah, I really, got a picture of a guy behind a drum set with synths, and like I've never even seen that setup. And he's, oh yeah, I've been tuning knobs. It's just not something I do. I digitally tune them. That's all.
still have that drums. Lenny's been here. And still have.
Yep, yeah, I can attest that he's real. I can
Good.
verify.
See, human being, very good.
And
I have a
you
sewing
you
machine.
have some really cool gear though, man. I have to admit for sure. Like you're very selective, Tiny Bites, if I may say. Like but which is a good thing. Because
Wait,
you can become like, what is that, gear acquisition syndrome? GAS. Some people
Yeah,
do
but
that.
he doesn't have a sewing machine.
it's piece you collect it. I mean, if I were to sit there and tell you all the synths I sold for peanuts, like my 808 and 909, I wanted to get the doctor rhythms because it was hard to run from the cops from doing raves back in the day when you're trying to carry two big drum machines,
Oh man.
the pedals, and you got two 303s in your pocket, and you're booking through a forest in the middle of the night. So I was like, I got to get these, batteries, the Dr. Rhythms. So I traded them off for $100 and $50 to get those little MIDI boxes, and people are like, "Oh, bro, you did that?" I was like, "Yeah, I sold had two Jupiter 8s. I sold them for 800 and somewhere in there. Like I got rid of all kinds of crap. What a mistake."
Well,
Yeah.
see you later, Jaquan, man. It's
Yeah,
always good
take
to
care.
see you, man. You're grooving out.
Yes.
Get easy.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. That was fantastic. We'll see you next week or next month.
But yeah, that was the hardware stuff. There's just no room. And then once you have kids, as mine are 15 and 17 now, but I kept getting my studio room kept getting smaller and smaller. And now I'm in a like this little offset in the basement is this tiny little spot that I rearranged so that Lenny could put his laptop in on one side over top of the old JD 800 that I had, and yeah, we would squeeze in here and jam for a bit, and then order pizza.
Yeah, that's a good. You got a nice little setup there, man. I really like that. I forget the name of that. Oh, and you have the voltage inputs on one of your devices, right? Where
Oh, the modular stuff, yeah.
the modular setup.
Yeah, I love I didn't want to get into modular because that is a bankrupting thing. My wife calls it's just crack. It's literally Euro crack. But I'm into the banana Buchla style. However, when I do my stuff modular, there's a guy uh Tip Top Audio. If any of you guys are familiar with them, I was talking to the guy who creates those, and he was listening to a track that I had done, a modular track, and he was like, "No, no, 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 no." He goes, "You don't want Buchla. You want to get into this." So he's like sending me all these company sounds and stuff. but my body still wants to go Buchla. I just can't afford it. Like $1,000 a module, you know, like it's 30,000 US dollars for the level that I'm at in modular, it would be about 30,000 bucks US just to jump into that. And I can't do that, man. That's not, I don't have that kind of money. You know, I think when the kids have graduated university, I'll probably be dead by then. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen. But I
Well,
love,
that's too bad. On both accounts, that you'll be dead when they're in university, and you can't afford this system.
well, you know, it would be cool. I saw a girl, my daughter thought I was watching porn. There's this Asian girl who's doing, she has a Buchla system, and but she wears these tiny, 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 tiny outfits, and she does techno. And but you can't search, if you search her name, you're going to get porn. I just happened to see the link off of Buchla's website, and I followed it, and I went, "Yep, that's what I want to do." I was just, you know, thrilled with it. But
Well,
anyway,
let's get a name. I'll roll the dice. I don't care what what fork I end up at.
hold on.
But anyways, I think we should wind it down.
Yeah.
We've come to pretty much close to closing time. And yeah, man, it was a great session, though.
I wanted to tell to Peter that I looked a little bit in my project, and you know, I just made that with like actually two parallel synthesizers to create like a hard pan effect, like in the metal songs, you know. So it's like the stuff in the middle is in the middle, but these other hard pan things create space, like create stuff around here, and then with like filters and overdrives to create the growl, you know.
So
And
two hard pan sub sounds, and then you've got very similar sub frequencies in the middle, and they mat up. Fascinating.
And
Okay.
a bit of overdrive, not overkill, and then filters to, you know, make it go, you know.
That's neat. That's enough new information for me to work with, for sure. Thank you.
Play with your EQ in mid side mode.
Holy shoot, man! Look at this.
Yeah, EQ in mid side modes. Sometimes it does interesting things, like the Pro Q2. If you have that, you can put it in mid. It has a selection mode, and you can put it to.
Yes, mid side. I do screw around with that from time to time, but yeah, okay. Okay. I like it. I like that.
Like think about
two separate sound. You had two completely separate sound hard pan, and they just work together to have a center sound.
Yeah.
That's what fascinating.
The metal,
I mean, I never heard anything.
Metal principles applied to electronic music.
Knobcon. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Downfall is, and Lenny will tell you that you can do a lot of stereo subbing and kicks and whatnot, but once you get to a live club, there you might actually miss half the, like one channel they'll only be plugged into the left. Anything to the right.
Well, you know, it's funny that you say that. A lot of monitors will have both left and right input, so you can, you know what I mean. So because they know if you have them too far apart and whatnot, you can get phasing. So I realize that sometimes what they would do is just play one channel, but more and more, I think they actually feed both channels, frankly.
Well, now they're doing that now, but in the old days, you always had.
In the old days, it might just be like the left channel or something. It's true.
Our headphones, the AT50s. I mean,
so you have to make it good to sound in mono.
Yeah, like it's crazy, right, to have that as a consideration, but it comes into play, you know.
But yeah, they have these new. I mean, real quick, these new music styles, which they say wouldn't be possible. You know, without the technology, and so, you know, like you said, you wouldn't have had a style, or what Voss was talking about. You wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have hard panned one sub and another sub and in the middle. That would have been a big problem.
To create interesting elements, if that doesn't work, because you have to spend $1 million time to get it right, you can just get two elements of top bass and just like find it, do it in different ways so that it doesn't clash in phasing and with the cues and stuff, and together they will sound like this more organic thing than by themselves, you know.
When you try to get rid of phasing, do you do that by ear, or are you using tools as well?
No, just ear, unfortunately.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I do it by tools if at all. I mean, I would have to. Well, I'd first of all have to hear it by ear to go. There's a problem. Then I would look at it and go, how do I fix this on an oscilloscope? But again, I'm inexperienced. But yeah, I mean, I don't look for phasing issues unless I hear an issue where it gets, oh, this is quiet. But anyways, we got to wrap it up. 1 minute left. Okay.
Well, we don't have to, but I'm just saying. I mean, I
Yeah.
think Vostok, what time zone are you in, man? Like, it's got to be
5 in the morning, you know.
so-
My eyes are falling out of my head, but I enjoy the music nerding with other people because usually it's just me by myself with the music I make, and it's good to be amongst other people who do the same thing.
For sure.
Yeah, I echo the same. Yeah, I'm up in 6 hours, so yeah, better head out. But
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Lenny, for hosting.
You're
Yeah,
very welcome, and thank you all for participating and sharing. It's always a blast, and yeah, we'll definitely do it again.
we'll see you soon.
Take care.
All right. Take it easy. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Peace.
Bye. Bye.